have a weird relationship with the Sonic IDW comic series. I've read the comics about 3 different times, all at various stages of the comics run. The first time was when the comics first started in 2018, but I dropped it before the first arc concluded. The second time was spurred on by discussions around Sonic's character being too passive, so I read all the way up to issue 50 in order to gain a better understanding of what was going on around Sonic in this series, and I ended up making a video about it. This video that you're watching right now is the result of the third time, an attempt to critique the series as a whole rather than taking note of one thing. The IDW comic is an interesting part of Sonic's world. It acts as a canon bridge to gap the in-betweens of the games. What we've gotten is a ton of original content, from new characters being created and then debated within the fanbase, to a plethora of discussions and theories about Sonic's world, and a host of unique combinations of characters and original stories we otherwise wouldn't see together in the games. What does this all mean for the comic itself though? Well, that's what I'm here to talk about. Going arc by arc, I break down my thoughts on Sonic IDW comic. Much like the game Sonic Riders Zero Gravity, I've had an unstable opinion of Sonic IDW. So much so to the point where I've rejected having an actual opinion on it for a while now, but I'm looking to change that. Enjoy the journey. The IDW comic starts strong with the Neo Metal Sonic arc, which sees Sonic and his friends fighting off an army of Eggman's robots in the wake of his disappearance after the war in Sonic Forces. Sonic eventually finds out that it's not the Egghead himself behind these attacks, but Neo Metal Sonic, who stages a grand invasion of Angel Island, looking to use the power of the Master Emerald for himself, but is ultimately stopped by Sonic and friends. I'm going to get this out of the way right now. I absolutely love this arc. It's strong, it's simplistic, it's very Sonic Heroes, Sonic Advance 3 inspired. It's classic Sonic the Hedgehog, a fun action adventure featuring Sonic and his friends fighting evil with the power of friendship and kick-ass abilities. This arc at no point ever does anything more than it needs to. It serves as an introduction for new fans and re-entry to the familiar for the established fan base. It also sets up the future of the comic stories very well, even if the resulting stories are lackluster. But trust me, that's for another video. Speaking of setting things up, this arc has some very good world building. I love that it's established from the very first issue that the world is moving along. Sonic isn't the catalyst for change. He's simply helping where he can, just like everyone else affected by Eggman's large-scale plans to take over the world Star Wars style in Sonic Forces. The first few issues serve to drive home this fact that people are doing what they can, gathering supplies, creating their own militias to fight off Eggman's robots are just a few examples. Flynn really takes the proper time to show readers how fucked up things are after the war, and in later arcs we see a lot of stuff build off the establishing status quo of the first few issues. Ian Flynn was no longer the head writer of the comics by this point, but even with things changing, the commitment to exploring Sonic's world post-Forces is something that I personally like. But I know a lot of people were done with that era, especially once Frontiers came out. Can't really blame them, can I? The team-ups in the early issues are very Sonic Advance 3 coded, which is why I drew that comparison earlier. It's always fun to see Sonic and Amy be the chaotic duo we all know they are, along with Sonic gushing over blazes as they fight side by side. Of all the team-up chapters, I loved issue 2 the most. Amy's character has become a contentious point of discussion within the Sonic fandom in the last few years, and I've dipped my toe in the water a few times, adding my own thoughts about Amy's modern character progression. Issue 2 delivers this in spades, I think. She's got all of her excitable energy and love for Sonic, but it's showing a little differently. Amy's character here is shaped by her experiences going all the way back to Sonic Adventure 1. While the writing of Amy's character for the majority of the 2000s wasn't exactly Shakespeare, there is a somewhat cohesive through line that can be followed as Amy develops into someone both capable of leading a team or supporting from the sidelines. This continues and comes to its height in Sonic Forces, where Amy co-leads the resistance with Knuckles. Despite clearly having progressed as a character, Amy is still Amy. I've talked about this before in some comments of some of my previous videos with other people who've shared their own opinions. Her usual snappy, emotion-driven decision-making was still on display throughout that game. People give Ian Flynn a lot of shit for Amy's portrayal in recent Sonic games, and I just don't agree with a lot of the criticism because I can see that he clearly has a good grasp on the character. His execution definitely could be much better though. We'll get to it later, but Evan Stanley does a great job with Amy in the IDW series, and I wish that she got more praise for this. While I'm here praising the writing of this arc, I must talk about my favorite issue in this entire comics run, issue 5. Team Chaotix helps Sonic find the lead on Eggman's whereabouts, leading them to a small village who has been housing a seemingly reformed Eggman, who has been helping the town with repairs, inventing things to improve their quality of life, and entertaining the children. The Chaotix, the village leader, and Sonic decide to keep tabs on Eggman but ultimately leave him alone. During this decision-making process, the question of what do you do with someone who's committed some especially heinous crimes, but they don't remember any of it, comes up. It leads to an engaging back and forth, a moral quandary that leaves Sonic confused and even paranoid despite choosing to see this version of Eggman as a good man who can do no harm. This is the comic's nexus point. This finding sets up the path Sonic follows in future stories. We obviously know what happens with Eggman, and because of this, the dramatic irony is in full effect. It stings seeing Eggman revert back to his sinister ways, and the comic makes sure to up the cruelty when he does. At this point in the comic, Sonic doesn't know it yet, but he's about to be robbed of the most significant positive change in his world. We know that the good times won't last, and it makes the anticipation of how Sonic deals with Eggman in the future all the more interesting. Ian Flynn manages to take an already interesting dynamic between a hero and villain and add more to it. Even if things never get this deep in the games, the comics are canon. They add more to the characters, and by doing so, it adds context to their actions in the games, which can be used to highlight comparison and potential progression. In my opinion, the entire comic peaks right here. Issue 6 features Shadow looking to get rid of Eggman, and the topic of fairness and forgiveness comes up when Sonic rightfully points out that Shadow did some fucked up shit, but everyone's cool with him. The writing in these two issues is next level. A few issues later on match the feeling I had reading issues 5 and 6 in their own ways, but 5 is especially the best. I know good work comes after this and I don't want to dismiss any of it, but I love a strong setup more than anything, and issues 5 and 6 gave me all that in spades. We get a good amount of original characters introduced in the Neo Metal Sonic arc. We got Rough and Tumble, Lanolin, Dr. Starline, who appears towards the end of the arc, and everyone's favorite couple, Tangle and Whisper, who were added to Sonic Crossworlds, debuting officially in the games. This made some people really upset because, for whatever reason, there's a group of Sonic fans out there who refuse to acknowledge the IDW comics as canon. Not sure why that's a thing. I get why someone would dismiss Sonic Prime as canon, considering that a lot of people absolutely did not like the ending, and the show apparently had a ton of contradictions that don't line up with its supposed place on the timeline. Sonic IDW fits like a glove. It's a cool way to bridge storylines between games, and I haven't really seen anyone give a good case as to why the comics being canon doesn't make much sense. Regardless of all that, the canon characters that we get are a nice bunch. It was crazy to see Lanolin pop up as early as issue 2. I get that at the time, the artists and writers for this comic didn't plan on Lanolin becoming a major character. She was just meant to be a unique background character that fans could point out every now and again. But the fact that she evolved into something more, regardless of real world context, adds to the world building I was talking about before. I like some of these characters. Tangle and Whisper are obvious favorites of mine. I remember reading their miniseries years ago and loving it. I believe the IDW writers do a good job with not making the girls all have the same types of personalities. I've seen people make videos discussing this issue, and I even got a comment saying something along these lines in another one of my videos, but I just don't see it. The only thing that they all share is the ability to defend themselves. Amy and Blaze are nowhere near the same as characters, for example, and I honestly think it's a reach to even say that. Yes, the writing of the games can be dull at times, but that doesn't mean things are getting so dull to a point that you can't differentiate between the girls and their characters. I don't need these characters to be so complex and layered in order to be different from one another. Amy and Tangle are both cheerful characters, but Amy has a level of sass and pragmatism that Tangle doesn't, birthed from being around Sonic a lot and taking on the arduous task of being resistance leader and aiding in the restoration. Rough and Tumble are okay. I don't really love or hate them based on their interactions with the cast in this first arc. They'll probably grow on me as I continue to read through the series. I find Metal Sonic to be a grossly underutilized character within the franchise. I know he's around for a while in the comics, but I like that Metal gets some shine here. I know in the Metal Virus Saga they do some interesting stuff with Metal. I'm currently cooking up a Metal Sonic analysis video, so I'm looking forward to rereading what they do with the character here. I want to briefly talk about Silver and Sonic as a duo. I like the fact that Silver is positioned as the most ideally optimistic and outgoing of the three hedgehogs. Sonic himself is charismatic, but he's a pretty observant character and can be more pragmatic than Silver. They've got a younger brother, older brother vibe going on compared to Sonic and Shadow's more competitive sibling rivalry. I'd love to see Silver and Shadow eventually interact more in this comic. I'm not sure if they ever do though. This comic is praised for its treasure trove of unique character interactions. You'll find it on full display throughout this arc. I particularly love the scene from issue 9, where the crew is flying to Angel Island to fight Neo Metal Sonic. It's dense with characters bouncing off of each other, creating an atmosphere of anticipation. Some are having fun to offload the pressure. Some let themselves become comfortable with the pressure, whether it be for the benefit of others or their own ambitions. Everyone knows what's at stake here. This stuff is really good. When I was rereading this, I couldn't wait to see how things transitioned into the next arc. I hope I enjoy the Metal Virus Saga more this time around. For as much as I love this arc, there's some stuff about it that I'm not fond of. I feel like I'm gonna bring this up for every arc. The art is just too inconsistent for me, and the paneling itself is genuinely ass. I do not hate the art of Sonic IDW. I'm not like those fans who endlessly shit on the art in the comics. I remember seeing tons of hate being thrown at Evan Stanley for her art in the comics, and I get it from a subjective standpoint, but you know how people can be. They take an opinion and try to spin it as a fact. I remember seeing a post from a Sonic artist responding to someone asking why they don't try to get a job working on the IDW comics. The artist said something to the effect of, if I started working on the comics, a bunch of Sonic fans who love my art would suddenly start hating it. The art is not the problem for me at all. I'm simply not a fan of the style changing damn near every other issue. I'd love it if they stuck to one artist per arc, having another artist come in to do special chapters within the arc every now and again. I've been reading the DC Comics recently and they follow this formula. I think keeping art styles consistent across a storyline would help differentiate each story even more, giving them their own flavor. However, it's likely the case that switching artists often allows for them to be able to deliver these comics monthly and the artists aren't as overworked. I don't know a thing about the production of comics, so take my speculation as if I were a reporter on Fox News. It's not a deal breaker for me as I enjoy the art anyway, but some consistency and style would be nice. The paneling sucks, straight up, just not good. For a comic about a fast-moving hedgehog, where flow and movement are a big selling point of the main video game series, the comics do not reflect this. It has its moments of capturing motion and good flow like here in Chapter 2, showing Sonic and Amy going from one side of the page to the other in a clear, concise flow of movement. Moments like this are few and far in between. I get that the action is frenzied and intense, but I want to be able to follow the action as it happens, not just simply be aware that action is happening on the pages that I'm reading. The action in this first arc is good, but I also found myself disappointed at times because it was just random rather than being a sequence of events that reflect the games. I also don't like how much overlap there is with the art. This is common across the medium, but as mentioned earlier, I've been reading some comics outside of Sonic, and the panels in series such as Absolute Wonder Woman, for example, are so beautifully stylized even with the art overlapping, and all while still being an incredibly easy follow. Sonic IDW has its moments, and trust me, when the paneling is good, it's very good, but more often than not, it's too cluttered. I said it before and I'll say it again. The Neo Metal Sonic arc is fantastic. This stuff came out almost a decade ago, and it's still an entertaining read. I like myself a complex story, and the team aimed to set up one here going forward, but for the majority of this arc, it's simple, it's fun, it's easy, it's classic Sonic the Hedgehog. If you're looking for a comic to read to kill time, I'd at the very least recommend the first arc of Sonic IDW. I'm beating a dead horse to death here, I know, but I can't stop going on about how great this arc was in totality. That's all I got for this one. What are your thoughts on the Sonic IDW comics, more specifically this first arc? Be sure to leave your opinions in the comments below. Maybe you got something that I didn't mention or notice here. If you liked this video, stick around because I'm working my way through all arcs in Sonic IDW up to whatever the current one will be by the time I'm caught up. I hope you enjoy the journey. There's a bunch of other Sonic videos on my channel as well. You like character analysis, you like reviews, you like Sonic theories, I got that for you. In the meantime, thanks for watching. I'm out.